What's going on, YouTube? On this episode of Storytime with Surly, we're going to be talking about two stories that have something to do with each other. Um, Back in 2018, I took a motorcycle trip with my brother and my father to Colorado, and Colorado Highway 114, I believe, somewhere around Gunnison. There's a peak right there. 114 hits like 10,300 feet. And I remember it was one of the first mountain roads I'd ever ridden on a motorcycle that didn't have a guardrail. And to add a little layer to that, so back when I was a bit younger, young kid, teenager, up to my early 20s, I was not a fan of heights. I won't say that I was afraid because I wouldn't freeze up. I would just 3 points of contact. A lot of the guys I was working with at the time as a boilermaker, you're climbing up towers and climbing on pipe racks, and some of the folks would give me a hard time about, oh, haha, he's always making 3 points of contact. Yeah, I ain't trying to fall. And I was also a bit heavier then, so managing my weight and balancing myself was a bit of a feat, So heights wasn't really my thing. I get in a man lift, You expect me to crawl out on a pipe rack or in a cable tray or something like that. I'm gonna get out there, but I'm not gonna be moving like everybody else. Well, I have since, mainly to do with motorcycles, conquered that fear, and that is one of the examples of a point where I did conquer that fear. Because on a motorcycle, you have no choice but to use all of this and this. And I remember thinking to myself, that's a good ways down there, And you can't freak out on a motorcycle. There's lot smaller error for margin, excuse me, a lot smaller margin for error than with a automobile, truck, etc. So on this trip there was that instance there, and then also a lot of Colorado is free range, right? So for people that don't know what that means, free range is there's not a law requiring you to pen or gate livestock. It's free range. Cow can go graze anywhere. Well, we were coming across a mountain pass, and I don't remember if it was somewhere near Telluride. I don't remember exactly where. But as soon as I saw the sign and I said free range over the intercom, because we all have seen a Bluetooth intercom in our helmets, as soon as I said free range, it wasn't 15 seconds, and my brother, who was on a CBR 600 at the time, almost clips a cow walking off of the side of the road to cross to the other side. And the speed limit on this road's like 50, 55. And I couldn't imagine hitting one in a vehicle, much less hitting one on a motorcycle. So, it was one of those have to be vigilant things. And obviously, like I said, with the heights thing, at the time, so 2018, at the time, I wasn't afraid of heights anymore at that time, but just the overall experience with motorcycles helped me to conquer that, because there's nothing between you and the road but what you got on. And trying to remember. So there was the 10,300 feet somewhere near Gunnison on 114. And then there was the free range cow. And then also this particular trip, we may have hit some gravel at one point. Somewhere near Durango or Telluride. I don't remember which. And that's another thing you have to stay vigilant with, which obviously people that live in this area know, Colorado, know that fallen rock means watch out for fallen rock. So I'm segueing into another story here. So somewhere on 114, and I think it's 114, it might be 50 right now. They're doing construction. Summertime in the mountains, that's typically when they do construction to prep for wintertime travel, assuming the road's even open. This whole road had pretty much given out with snow over the last winter. Well, we didn't think anything about it, and a friend of mine and myself were up in Salt Lake City, Utah, coming back through. We headed east over to Montrose, Colorado, I believe is what it was. And instead of going directly south, we decided we'll just cut diagonal across the state. I'd been through the area before. I knew it wasn't a big deal for a truck. And it never occurred to me to ask him, had you ever driven in the mountains like this? You know? And he's a buddy of mine, like I said. He's also very cocky. And I'll tell him he's cocky. I really don't care. I'll tell him to his face. Swear to God I will. Shout out to Donnie Baker. And it never occurred to me to be like, let me check the map here and make sure I'm not going somewhere he might not be comfortable driving, because we're in a 2006 Freightliner M2-106 with about a 8,000 pound load behind us. I mean, obviously that's not including the trailer, but it was some electrical equipment that we were moving from Grand Junction, that's what it was, Grand Junction, Colorado, to Waco, Texas, because it put us closer to home. So we get up into some spots where it's 7% upgrade, 7% downgrade, and this truck's it's not completely intended in its factory form to handle those kind of upgrade and downgrades. And there were sometimes we're doing 25, 30 miles an hour, and we're trying not to cause any damage to the truck, so we're just taking it easy. And we're coming down to downgrade, and this is right at the peak. It's 10,300 some odd feet. Come right up to the top of it, and this whole stretch of road for probably 15 miles, I'd imagine, I'd have to look, is no guardrail. So we're on a 2-lane road, 114 Colorado, headed down a grade, no guardrail, and this guy's like white knuckling the steering wheel, and he starts using some choice vocabulary at me, like, I can't believe you got me going down this 7% downgrade, no guardrail. And I'm thinking to myself, this truck by itself weighs like 26,000 pounds. What do you think a guardrail is going to do, But all I can do is laugh at him, because it's like, regardless of what you're driving, man, if you go off the road, you going off the road. Because, like, I could roll the window down and look down probably 1,500 feet. And it's like, I have learned to not let my emotions play in an emergency situation or even a potential emergency situation. And it was just funny to me, he probably talked about that the rest of the whole way down. We stop at lunch in the other side of, it might have been Montrose that I'm thinking about, where we stopped for lunch. I think it's Montrose. I could be wrong. Somebody help me out. There's an Arby's right there by the college. That's where we stopped. That's all he talked about. And he said something the other day, and this was just 3 weeks ago this happened. 2 weeks ago now. 2.5 weeks ago. But it's just funny. Like, you learn from your situations. And that's why I'm really emphasizing that a lot with my oldest right now is if you know you're going to get in trouble for something silly, you know, mom and dad, stepmom, then don't do it. Learn from the previous incidences. And this can go for an adult too. Like, I know people that are, I can't believe I'm, back in trouble with the legal system. Well, what prompted you to go down that path again? And it's just one of, like, learn what not to do. Not what you can get away with, but learn what not to do. Or learn how to do it. If there's a situation that you can handle differently, handle it differently. It doesn't matter if you're driving down a mountain past white knuckling, or riding your motorcycle, or paying your taxes, which nobody likes taxes. I'm especially not fond of taxes. But the consequences oftentimes are more severe than actually handling business the first time. Because if you do it right the first time, you won't have to go back and do it again. And that's something I wish at my daughter's age and currently that somebody would have told me when I was her age, instead of just go to your room, you're grounded. Not that she doesn't get grounded, but explaining, like, hey, you're not picking up a pattern here. Like, you do something silly, there's consequences, and sometimes those consequences will lead you down a road that's way longer than the shortcut you were trying to take to get out of it. So, well, shout out to everybody watching. I say everybody, there's been like, 10 or 12 views on each video and a handful on the sneak peeks. But I appreciate you guys watching. Shout out to Peyton, Lillian, and Timothy. I love you guys, and this is the Surly Mechanic. I will see you guys next week on Storytime with Surly. Have a good one.